Welcome to the Language of Composition 2nd Edition, the best-selling textbook for AP Language and Composition. Now in its 2nd edition, the language of composition is better than ever. The text was first published in 2007 and has since been revised based on feedback from teachers across the country. Before we take a closer look at the textbook, let's look at the minds and experience behind it. Meet our authors, Renee Shea, Larry Scanlon, and Robin Ofsis. Let's take a closer look at our author team. Renee Shea is a former professor of English and Modern Language at Bowie State University and an AP Reader, Table Leader, Question Leader, and Development Committee member. She is currently a College Board consultant. Lawrence Scanlon has been an AP Language and Literature teacher for over 30 years. He is an AP Reader, Table Leader, Question Leader, and Development Committee member. He is also a College Board consultant. Robin Ofsis has been an AP Language and Literature teacher for over 25 years. She is currently the Director of English Studies at Lycée Français de New York and has published articles for the College Board. If you're familiar with the first edition of the text, let's take a look at what changes have been made. We've added a new skill-based chapter on analyzing arguments. At conferences, workshops, and in reviews, we've heard many teachers asking for more information on argument, how to help students analyze arguments as well as write their own. Chapter 3, Analyzing Arguments, From Reading to Writing, introduces the essential elements of argument, such as claims, evidence, fallacies, and arrangement, in an approachable and practical way. We take students through the process of constructing an argument on a topic of their own choice, from exploring ideas to crafting an arguable claim, to developing a thesis and structuring the overall essay. The language of composition has always been divided into two parts. The first part is the opening chapters, which builds students' AP skills, while the second part contains thematic chapters and readings. For the second edition, we've added more activities in the opening chapters that now give students many more opportunities to practice individual skills with brief, approachable texts. We believe that students learn by doing. We also acknowledge that teachers need more opportunities to scaffold and differentiate instruction in a challenging course such as AP Language. Additionally, each of the opening chapters now concludes with a culminating activity on a series of brief texts and visual texts that allows students to demonstrate what they've learned in their work with single texts. It is another layer of scaffolding designed to help students of all levels reach proficiency. We've also added 2 new thematic chapters, including one on the economy and another on the environment. This shift in focus recognizes that the AP Language course is moving away from lyrical essays and nature writing and toward issue-driven arguments. The conversations in the thematic chapters, which we'll talk about more in a moment, have also been updated. We've also added 80 new pieces of nonfiction, more humor, more visual text, and a 24-page color insert devoted exclusively to visual texts. I want to now take a look at an introductory chapter for the language of composition. As mentioned before, the opening chapters of the text are designed to teach your students the skills necessary to be successful on the AP exam. These chapters introduce students to the principles and language of rhetoric and argument that they will use throughout the book. We'll take a look at each of the skill-based chapters next. Chapter 1 is an introduction to rhetoric. It provides instruction on key rhetorical concepts, including the rhetorical situation, appeals, visual rhetoric, and more. Chapter 2, the close reading chapter, guides students through the close analysis of diction and syntax with an emphasis on their rhetorical effects. We briefly discussed Chapter 3 already, but I want to say again that this is the brand new argument chapter that helps students master essential elements of argument and put them to use in their own writing. Finally, the last skill-based opening chapter is focused around synthesizing sources. It introduces students to the use of sources to develop and enhance their own viewpoints. I now want to show you a thematic chapter for the language of composition. The thematic chapters start at Chapter 5, which is focused around education. The thematic organization, focused by essential questions, encourages students to explore the complexities of a single issue and synthesize the different viewpoints represented. We chose 9 chapter themes: education, community, the economy, gender, sports, language, popular culture, the environment, and politics. Each thematic chapter has certain key features to use with your students. These include the central essay, which is a rich rhetorical model well suited for the AP language course. Another feature is the classic essay, which is a work written between the 18th century and early 20th century to give students experience analyzing writing styles from different time periods. A key feature of each chapter is the conversations, which gives students practice with synthesis by providing source material and guiding questions to help students use the words and ideas of others to support their own arguments. Let's take a look at one of the new thematic chapters, the economy. You can see some of the features we discussed previously, like the central and classic essays, as well as the conversation for this chapter, which is focused on materialism in American culture. We'll take a look now into how the conversations are structured. The conversations feature will truly bolster your students' ability to synthesize and craft an argument using other people's viewpoints. And we focused our conversations on high-interest topics for students, such as paying college athletes, exporting American pop culture, and sustainable eating. We've also added 80 new pieces of nonfiction to this edition of the language of composition. This includes pieces by contemporary writers like Malcolm Gladwell and Eric Schlosser, as well as classic writers like Ben Franklin and Walt Whitman. Another change we made is to add humor in all the chapters. This gives students the opportunity to analyze the powerful and challenging rhetorical strategies of humor, irony, and satire found in authors' works. Before we move on to the teacher resources, let's discuss technology. BFW provides 2 different ebook types dependent on your needs. AdaptText, powered by Copia Class, is your BYOD solution. It works through an app on multiple tablets or can be accessed through a PC or Mac on an internet browser. You can download the ebook through your app on your tablet or phone, so students can have online or offline access to their ebook. Launchpad is an interactive ebook that is only available through your web browser with an internet connection. It has built-in adaptive quizzes called Learning Curve, an easy-to-use gradebook, pre-built units, and access to teachers' resources and test banks. Now let's take a look at your teachers' resources. The first resource is the Instructor's Manual, which contains suggested approaches to teaching, teaching ideas, and suggested responses to the many questions in the student text. There are 3 main parts of the Instructor's Manual, which we'll take a look at now. Part 1 of the Instructor's Manual is focused on teaching AP English language. It is written by Rebecca McFarlane and provides lots of essential information and advice to help a new teacher hit the ground running, and plenty of interesting tips for experienced teachers as well. It begins with the basics, such as history and objectives of the AP exam, AP language fact versus myth, and AP language versus AP literature. It also discusses balancing pre- and post-19th century works, balancing genres, non-negotiable rhetorical concepts you need to teach, and how to use the AP instructional planning report effectively. Then, it dives into specific teaching strategies, such as creating the proper environment for your students, engaging students in critical thinking, teaching close reading strategies, teaching writing in AP English language, preparing students for the year, and curriculum planning. In Part 2, the Instructor's Manual provides a walkthrough of how to effectively teach with the language of composition in both the skill building and thematic chapters. For the first 4 skill building chapters, the manual provides teaching tips and explanations congruent to how the student text is broken down. Followed by the teaching point is an activity and explanation of the activity that will help your students grasp the concept even more. Suggested responses are also explained to ensure that your students are providing real, factual answers. In the thematic chapters, the manual first presents a lesson plan tailored to each chapter's theme. The manual offers a variety of suggested approaches to the central essay, classic essay, additional readings, poetry, and visual texts, accommodating to you and your teaching style. In addition to the suggested approaches, are suggested responses to the reading comprehension questions, like the questions for discussion and exploring the text. Students will not only understand the fundamentals of the reading in the chapter, but how and why the author uses the rhetoric and style they choose. In the last section of the Instructor Manual, you will be able to test the knowledge your students have gained during their time in the AP Language classroom. 36 pre-constructed sets of AP-style multiple-choice questions help test the students' reading comprehension, with 8 of these sections testing for the students' understanding of how to use sources. For essay practice, the manual offers 2 AP-style essay questions per chapter, allowing the students to practice thinking like an AP student. For teachers using our online platform, these materials are compiled into 5 practice exams. The test bank is powered through ExamView Test Generator. It contains nearly 200 multiple-choice questions and is comprised of more than 1,600 questions that test students' skills in close reading and analyzing nonfiction passages. Our professional development learning community, the BFW Classroom Compass, is a free place to work with other teachers. Visit today. If you have any questions, please reach out to your sales rep. Thank you for watching.